It's time for another episode of Rainmaker for Contractors. Interviews and success stories with $1 million plus basement waterproofing and foundation repair owners. Discover how they market and grow their companies in today's economy. Hear directly from the most successful leaders in your industry. With your host and Rainmaker for Contractors owner, Bill Crawford.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Rainmaker for Contractors podcast. Today we have a very special guest named Ty Lawrence, who works at Home Advisor. If you're a growing contractor, there's no doubt you use Home Advisor or you're going to use Home Advisor. And Ty is especially special because she is our corporate rep for the Basement Health Association. In case you're not familiar with the Basement Health Association, it's the association that serves basement waterproofing contractors as well as foundation repair folks. Ty, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. That's great. Hey, Ty, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, how long have you worked at Home Advisor? Where have you worked at Home Advisor?
Yep. So I have a total of almost 5 years under my belt here at Home Advisor.
Nice.
I was here previously a few years ago when I lived in Colorado, working outside of their headquarters in Golden. And then my family and I decided to move from Colorado here to the East Coast of Maryland. And that was pre-COVID, right? Pre-working from home, this new world of you can work from home and, be great. And now that they have telework opportunities, I'm now back. So majority of my time has been in the, business development department, which is what I'm in now. So I'm super excited to be back. I have a wealth of knowledge. It's an exciting time to be back.
Absolutely. I love that you have a lot of experience. And I know that I think you're somewhat newer on the Basement Health Association.
Yes.
But you're certainly not new to Home Advisor. And I know you have a lot of information there. So it's going to be super helpful. Hey, I know that not all the contractors that I've talked to in the 25 years or so that I've been in this space, like Home Advisor. And I always encourage people to use Home Advisor, and I have to often overcome some old misconceptions. I know they were called service magic at one time, and things were run differently, but there's been a lot of improvements. But even in today's world, what are some of the misconceptions or complaints that you often hear from contractors?
Yeah. And you're right. I was actually here when we were Service Magic before. So this is my second rebrand that I'm going through. And I would say the misconceptions that I've heard then are the same that I hear now. So the number one thing is, I reached out to the homeowner and they didn't hire me. I thought you were going to send me leads where they would for sure hire me. So I always tell people we are a lead generation company, right? So we are going to ensure that we send you leads of homeowners who we have, gone through the process, we've vetted, we ensure that, they are good. And it is up to you and how you reach out and you close that lead. So it's, same if you were to do mailers, right? You're sending out all these mailers, but you cannot guarantee that a homeowner is going to call you. And if they do, you still can't guarantee you're going to win the job. So that's the number one thing I tell people is we are a lead gen company. We can give you all the tools possible of how to reach out to a homeowner, watch your tone, be warm, be welcoming, get encouraged questions, but it's ultimately up to the pro of how you close that lead, right? So the second, I guess misconception that I consistently hear too is you stole the homeowner's information and you're selling it to me and they said they never went to Home Advisor. How dare you? 20 pros got matched.
Wow.
I always tell people, I use myself, for example, I'm a homeowner. Absolutely, I'm biased. So I use Home Advisor. That's, a no-brainer, but I also have my husband. And so we will typically go to Google as well, just try to get different quotes, different people. And sometimes it does get overwhelming when you have a ton of contractors calling you back and you're not sure where they got your information. So I always tell our pros, hey, instead of saying, I got your information from here, approach it and say, hey, Ty, I noticed that you went online, you filled out a request, you're looking to get, your basement waterproofed or this and third. Here's a little bit of background about me. And here's what we can do for you. That immediately brings those walls that homeowner has put up down, because sometimes you have to put yourself in the homeowner's shoes, right? Before I worked at Home Advisor, I'm going to be honest, I was really skeptical about filling out any kind of service request, whether it was for my house or, even for my kids in school or, for me. I was always skeptical because I didn't know what happened with my information. And that was because, I've done it before. And like when I was looking to go back to school years ago, all of these random people had my number after that. And it was like for like Game Boys, for this, and I'm like, what? So we have to remember that homeowners are still going to be skeptical even till this day, even if they know for sure they filled out the request. So it's all about calling them and bringing down those barriers to make them feel comfortable.
Wow. All right, a couple more I've heard that Home Advisor only gets people that are looking for the lowest price.
Yep. Heard that too.
Yeah, they're not serious. I think these are just sales issues. I like that you said, we're lead generation. Hey, if we can start from the very beginning, when you think about an account setup, what are some of the more important areas when someone's setting up a Home Advisor?
So number one, of course, your profile page. So the good thing about Home Advisor is when you sign up, when the sales rep is asking you those questions like, hey, do you have any specific hours of operation? Or, do you do anything in the community? When they're asking those random questions, for one, yes, they are trying to get to know you, but another, they're already starting your profile page out for you. So you're going in with at least 20% of your profile page completed automatically. So the next thing you want to make sure is that you have pictures up. You could be in business for over 50 years and you can have that in your About Me section, but if you don't have pictures, 99% of the time, the homeowner is not going to believe you. They're like, they just put words up and that's it, right? So you want to make sure you have pictures before and after. I like telling my pros that it doesn't matter if you do the same job over and over and over. Get pictures from different angles, different setups of houses, right? Different communities, because sometimes being a homeowner, if you're looking at a pro and you're looking at their website, you'll see like, oh, wow, they've done work in this community and this community. So they have, a wide range of knowledge in different types of housings, things like that. The second thing, honestly, is that About Me section. A lot of homeowners now, especially because we're moving into the millennial phase, right? They want to kind of get to know you before they talk to you. So I say, think of your profile page like Tinder, I guess, a dating app, right? Where it's like, you want the person who you want to be matched to, that they kind of already know you before you begin that first conversation. Yeah. So if I'm going through someone's profile page and I'm like, oh, wow, Jim's been in business for 15 years. They have these awards, now they have pictures. I'm going to be more prone to choose that contractor. That's just, I know a little bit about you before you come to my home, right? And then the last thing that's really important is if you have any deals, put them on there, even if it's like, hey, the first, your quote is free, or for our travel time, we don't charge a $50 travel fee, those type of things, What is it that you offer free to the homeowner, and immediately put it on your profile page. You're not missing out on any money by putting a deal that you already offer out there. What that does to homeowners, they go to your profile page, they immediately look for your pictures. That's always number one. They look at your About Me section, and now they're looking like, okay, do they have any deals? Like, what can I get? Even if it is a refer, like, hey, if you refer me to someone else, there's $100 credit or something. Homeowners love deals. It's just like if you're going to go to the grocery store, right? And you're like, hey, I have a budget. You're going to look at like one pack of ground beef compared to another, even if it's like 23 cents difference, you're like, I'm saving 23 cents. Like, sure. So it's the same way.
Do you have a favorite deal that you see, homeowners love this kind of deal?
It varies. I will say the best deals that I can put out there is when they're seasonal. Okay. So, because it's a subconscious thing. If you feel like you have only 30 days to take advantage of a deal, you're going to make sure that you book that pro within those 30 days, right? Mm-hmm. So that does two things. On the pro side, it helps them. They've won the job. They know that they're going to do it, this month. It's not going to be something that's pushed out down the line, right? Yeah. On the homeowners end, they're like, I got that deal before it expired. Right. I saved money, right? So, yeah. So you're working both ends. So I always say do limited time offers every time. And you can say, I have a pro. When I tell you this woman, she is the queen of seasonality deals. She has the back to school deal. She has
one for every month, right?
Yes, like every month. And they're so creative with the names, and that's what kind of also triggers you, right? Is like, how creative can you get with a name too? And I'm always willing to help out with those type of things too. Like, hey, use this. This is a keyword that's trending right now. So
I like it. So the first time you and I talked 2 or 3 conversations ago, there was a client that I was trying to help, and they were saying, I have this big budget, but Home Advisor doesn't give me the leads for it, and I don't know what's going on. I'm kind of stuck. So you intervened, and you figured out pretty quickly. And it came down to this market match versus exact match. Can you explain what market and exact match are? What's the difference?
Absolutely. So market match, the easiest way I can explain it. Market match, many to many match. Okay. I'm a homeowner. I'm going to HomeAdvisor.com. I'm saying, hey, I trust you to match me with screened pros who have nothing less than, a 3.5 star rating. Match me. Make sure it's not more than 4 pros, please, because I don't want 7 people calling me. So Home Advisor, we are matching you to up to 4 pros. If that neighborhood or area isn't, congested with pros, it may be less than 4, but we guarantee up to 4. That's market match, many to many. Exact match is me going on our website and I'm saying, you know what, Bill's profile page, it stands out to me. He has everything that I want. I want to exactly choose Bill. Bill, call me. So that's exact match. So exact match is not anything we can forecast, right? We can't forecast how many exact match leads you're going to get in a month, but we can forecast market match leads because that's based on trends that we have, specific data. So I always tell people, yes, you do want a good budget on exact match. Our call center will tell you the same thing because you never want to run out of money in exact match. You never want it to come back and say, oh, you've hit your limit. We're not going to let, homeowners see you on our list or know that you're here, right? So you always want to open budget, but you really want to call the call center and say, hey, what's my forecast, right? Whatever your forecast is, if you feel you can take on those leads, match your budget to that forecast. I always say go about 20% over because the forecast is just that, right? We're not guaranteeing this is what we're forecasting. Yeah. So as we know, if you're in a flood zone or something and there's been a huge, storm in your area, those leads are going to increase, right? So you want to always make sure you're at least 20% over your forecast to kind of pad when seasonalities change and trends change.
Super helpful. So if I'm guessing if a contractor is super well branded, they've been around, they're on TV, radio, everyone knows who they are. They're definitely going to get a whole lot more exact matches than the typical contractor out there. Because, right?
Yes and no. Because yes, they may be really well branded and be on TV and radio, but is your profile page less completed than the other guys, right? Do they have more ratings than you? All of this ties into a consumer choosing you. And I think that's a main misconception that I hear from pros who are like, I do $400,000 a year without Home Advisor. How come I'm not getting an exact match leads? And I go to their profile page and I'm like, you haven't done anything, but I have someone who's maybe doing $30,000 a year outside of Home Advisor. And they are, not only do they have pictures, not only do I have everything filled out on their profile page, but they're constantly getting reviews and they're responding back to those reviews too, to every single one saying, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Like that is going to bring more exact matches to that pro over you. That shows they care about every single homeowner. So I tell everyone that. Don't just say, I'm on radio, I'm on TV, I should get more. No, what are you doing behind the scenes?
All right. So for our listeners, if others can learn from our scenario, we had a client that had a fairly large exact match and a pretty small market match. And so what was happening is the market match would cap, and then Home Advisor wasn't sending any more leads to them, and they weren't getting any more. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. And then their budget for exact match, not that many people knew them, fell in love with their profile, whatever it was. So that was open, but his people weren't going there. So yeah, your words are well spoken. So make sure there's enough money really for both. See what you can handle. I like that, calling the customer service rep and finding out what that territory can handle.
Yeah.
And adding 20%. A lot of our contractors are like, give me as many leads as you can, we'll sell them. Doesn't matter.
And that's great. And that's one thing, when you call into the call center, on your profile page, you can see your forecast, right? But the way it can break down in the call center, they can tell, they will ask you how many, leads can you actually work a month, not halfway work, not I'll try to get some, but how many can you actually work? And then they'll put that number in there and tell you what your budget should be at. Nice. So if you're like, I can work 120 leads, they're going to put 120 in there. They're going to see if the forecast matches or whatever the case is. And they're going to tell you, all right, so we need to set your market match budget at $8,000 this month or whatever it is, just throwing a number out there. So we can definitely get granular.
Let me throw another weird scenario out. Let's say there is 10 contractors in some market, and 7 of those contractors have a capped budget, say by the 20th of the month. What happens from the 20th to the 30th? Will only the 3 remaining contractors get the leads because their budget's open?
Yes and no. So we do work on an algorithm, of course, right? So the algorithm is going to change which pros get presented to which homeowners, but also everyone's kind of monthly budget, or I shouldn't say monthly budget, monthly cycle is different. So maybe yours ends on the 20th, mine's ends on the 17th, his ends on the 28th. So it's just think of it as a 28-day rolling target. And if you're unsure, because I know sometimes the billing page is difficult to read, call the call center. They can tell you, 28 days, sure. But say, taking your scenario, we have 7 pros in the area. 4 of them hit their budget, 3 others have not. We use those 3 to match them to the homeowner. That's when, and say those 3, they denied the lead, or, their leads are off, right? And we can only really match that homeowner to one person, or maybe all their leads are off, because that's happened before. That's when, and I'm sure the, pros have seen this too, where they're going to get leads sent to them as called opportunity leads. And that is saying, hey, either you accepting this lead is going to take you over your budget, your leads are off, so taking this lead, your leads will still remain off, but we will send it to you. Or it's outside of your coverage area, or outside of your task. So it's going to come to them as an opportunity lead, and it's going to tell them you have 24 hours to accept this lead. If you accept it, that it's going to cost X amount of dollars, and then we will send you the homeowner information. They have the option to accept or deny that lead. If they accept it, they'll still get it, right? If they deny it, they're not going to get billed. They don't receive it. So they'll still get opportunity leads.
Okay, that makes sense. Hey, just stepping back, as you look at contractors that are just crushing it with Home Advisor, are there any best practices that stand out to you that are different than the majority?
Yes, calling the lead right away, like within 5 minutes. I tell people all the time, we have to remember, and I kind of said it earlier in this call too, is right now we're working with more millennials than anything else. And honestly, a lot of millennials, they're not going to answer the phone. They're texters or they're emailers. So if you've called someone and they don't answer, immediately send them a text, follow up with an email, like do a 3x3. And I tell people, like, follow up 3 different days, 3 different times of the day, 3 different methods. You're going to get a hold of that homeowner. A lot of times when I'm talking to pros and I'm doing webinars, the, vast majority of them are like, I called them the first day and they never returned my call. I've been waiting for a week. And I'm like, did you call back? Did you email? Did you text? And a lot of our pros, they kind of get stuck in their way of saying, well, this has always been successful for me. This has been proven to work. And they're not willing to bend or, shift. And we have to remember, it's not about what's comfortable for us as contractors. It's what are the times we live in? What are we seeing that's successful? So that's number one, is just like how quickly you follow up. But another is like when you're leaving voicemails, honestly, like be enticing, be fun, be creative. Again, I use Home Advisor quite often. I've already said I'm biased. I will remain that way. And I've gotten, when we had to get our house repainted, one guy left me a voicemail and it was super muffled. I couldn't understand him. Of course, I knew who I was matched to because my Home Advisor app page, and I called him back. But then there was another guy and he was like, hey, I don't want to say his name, but so we're just going to use the name Jeffrey. He was like, hey, this is Jeffrey with Jeffrey's Painting. I got your information. Loved your voicemail, by the way. Was that your daughter in the background? She sounds beautiful. Like immediately called out personal things. And I was like, wow. Because I do have my daughter on my phone, on my voicemail too. It's fun, right? So he connected with me right away. His voice was like super up. It sounded like he loved what he did, compared to the other pro who was like, hey, this is Dave. Got your information. Call me back. I'm going to go with Jeffrey, right? And that happens all the time. And, you have to, even if it's your 20th call that day, each time be creative. Even with the text messages, I get text messages quite a lot too. And, sometimes it's just like, this is Jeff, call me back, with Jeff Painting. And then I'll get others like, hey, got your information. Hope you're having a great day. Sorry if it was a bad time to call you, but, really like connecting with me. So always connect with me. Show your personality.
I love that. I just, for the owners that are listening, and I know that you overhear conversations, like, please don't accept people being on the phone and sounding monotone.
Yes.
Like what you just said, you said it so well. And I love that you brought in a painter, because who's going to be more observant of details? The person that's enthusiastic, that's trying to connect, or the person that's like, man, I do great work. I know you never heard of me before, but my name's Dave. If you want a good price and a job, then call me back. It's like, okay, sorry, I'm going with Jeffrey or whatever, you know? It's like that stuff matters. And even if in our heads we're like, okay, these are just voices, like subconsciously it just hits us, and like we're convinced that this person cares and the other one doesn't. So yeah, wow, very nice job of communicating that. It's awesome. So call them back right away and have enthusiasm. I mean, I talk to some contractors that only get in touch with half of the leads that they buy from Home Advisor. And a lot of it has to do with just follow up.
Yeah.
All right. The favorite topic, lead credit. Can you explain which lead credit categories tend to get credited and which ones don't?
Yep. So this
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yep, absolutely. So lead credits, this is a fun topic, right? So I would say the easiest thing to know when you're thinking about lead credits is the obvious. So you receive a homeowner's information, the phone number is bad. I left my name as Ty Lawrence, you called, and the person was like, there's no Ty Lawrence at this phone number. Obviously that's bad contact information, submit that in, right? And the category that falls under is bogus contact. That also goes along with physical addresses too. Sometimes they may leave their real first and last name, real phone number, but then when you go to look up the address, maybe it says 123 Elmo Street, right? There's no Elmo Street. That's still bogus information. The consumer did not provide accurate and factual information, so please submit those in. If you receive a request for something you do not do, right, but they put it under a category that you do. So I'm just going to say like window replacement. That's the easiest one. So someone submitted in a service request for one window to be replaced. When you called, they actually needed 15. You do not do more than one at a time. So that is something you don't do. You also don't have that category on your profile page, submit it in. Another obvious one is the consumer is not the homeowner. You call, they're like, oh, I don't own it. I'm actually a renter. I just, want to get some quotes. So when I call back the landlord, I can tell them this is how much it's going to cost. They do not have, legal, responsibility to that home. They cannot make legal decisions of that home. Therefore, they're not the homeowner. Submit those in. If it's under a zip code, maybe they fat fingered it, so it came through to you, but then when you called, you realized it was the wrong zip code in a coverage area you don't do. Those are always going to be credited as well. Some of the ones where it's like, they should have been credited, I don't know. And I think people tend to get upset with us is they've called and they haven't been able to get a hold of the homeowner. So they submitted in as bogus contact info. It's not bogus. There's nothing to prove that it's bogus. They're just not responding. Those will not be credited, right? It's not bogus contact information. The physical address is real. The email address is real. And we do have a credit team. A lot of people think it's done by a bot. It's not. We have a credit team that researches the stuff too. They will see how many times that homeowner has filled out a service request with us, how many times they've hired a pro through us. So they look at all of that. They're not just hitting deny. If you get a lead and it's for the wrong category, but it's for something you do because it's under your profile page, you will get what's called a partial credit. So, maybe it was put under install concrete foundation, but it was really repair. You put it through, we're going to give you the credit for the difference. So we're technically changing that lead to the price of a repair versus an install. Other things that'll get denied is you called and it's a husband and wife, and the wife answers and she's like, okay, I'll have my husband look it over, call you back. We have people who put those in for credit too, saying the wife is not the homeowner. She is. They're legally married. They live there. She does have the right to make decisions. She just wants her husband to make the final decision, right? So there are going to be things that fall in the gray area too. We do know that. And I always tell pros, yes, it's great that we do have that credit option to go through the app and through your profile page. And it's amazing when it's cut and dry. If you know that when we call out, it's going to immediately show that, or by them looking at your profile page, it's going to immediately show why you should get credit. Submit it through the profile page, submit it through the app. But if you know that it's a gray area, call. I know we all hate calling into call centers. I get it. I understand, but call them because it's easier to talk through those gray areas than submitting it in. And the same with our live chat. You can even live chat it through too.
Oh, nice. So I hear you saying, if you know it's a gray area already, don't bother going through the lead portal. Just call first. Because it might even make it harder to give a lead credit because it's already been denied one time.
Exactly. And then they get frustrated. Like I have, pros who'll call and they're like, Ty, I know I'm not supposed to call you, but I found your number, through one of our corporate contacts. They denied this. How dare they? And I'm like, okay, let's breathe, right? I got you. First, how did you submit it? They tell me how they submitted. I'm like, okay, what happened? Hearing what they said compared to what they typed are two completely different things, right? So I always tell people, call or do the live chat. Don't put yourself through this thing where you've called me and you're upset for 4 minutes and now I have to calm you down. Now you're calm. You're like, well, why didn't they approve it in the beginning?
Sure.
We love taking care of our pros, but you have to let us take care of you.
There's 3 areas which if I could press you kind of more specifically, maybe it's great for you. One you've already answered, contractor calls and they don't answer, but it's legit information. Maybe they went the first person that reached out to them and they stopped, and that happens. And you've clarified that. The 2 that happen sometimes in basement waterproofing, sometimes it's a leaky pipe and it's really a plumbing issue, but the waterproofer got charged. And then the other one is when the water is coming over the top of the foundation, it's more like a landscaper's issue where the grade is too high and it rained heavy and came up. Are those possible lead credits?
Yeah, and those are ones you want to call in because I've seen some of the BHA members put those in through their profile page, and I can always tell when they put it in through their profile page than when they call. And I understand what you're saying because I've been on webinars with you guys, right? I've talked to you guys, so I get it. I get what can happen. But if you're just kind of explaining it that way to our credits team and they're just like, what? And they reach out to the homeowner's always going to tell them what they feel needs to happen. Like, no, it is waterproofing. There's water leaking in my basement. What do you mean it's not a waterproofer, right? So they're going to deny it because they're like, I spoke to the homeowner.
Yeah.
It said it's still waterproof. But if you call and like, hey, the homeowner thinks it's waterproofing, but let me explain to you how the process works, we're going to give you credit. Okay,
good. Excellent. Very good. All right, let's see here. Your statements, since we help out a lot of contractors, it can be difficult to read. Like we all get credit card statements and whatever, and it's easy. Okay, last month I did this month I did that. Any hope on seeing a new statement come out from Home Advisor down the pipe?
Yes, I will say that we are working on a lot of different updates with the profile pages, with our statements, with those things. I can't provide a guaranteed date of when that's going to happen. But I will say that there's going to be a lot of different changes that are coming that pros are going to be happy with. And again, I understand that the statement's hard to read, and I understand having to call in every time is frustrating. Like you don't want to call in, but I still encourage people, like you can call in and the call center can also email you your statement too. So definitely if it's hard, if it's hard to understand it, just call in and we can take care of you.
Okay. And for those that don't know, we've mentioned the Basement Health Association, annual membership is $395 a year. With that, one of the great benefits of Basement Health is a 7% rebate on all Home Advisor leads, which is awesome. For the many contractors that are members of Basement Health for that reason, how do they know they're actually getting that lead credit and where would they find that?
So it is quarterly. So we will always provide it back to you quarterly. And when you log on to your profile page, even if the account statement is hard for you to read, you will see where it says rebate credit right next to it. And it's going to have a lump sum that's given back to you. So always just look at that. You can look for lead rebate credit. Now, one thing to keep in mind, because I actually did get an email from one of the gents earlier last week about the rebate credit. If you have submitted any leads in for credit and they got approved, you're not going to get a rebate on top of that. You didn't pay for it. So these are lead rebate credits for leads in which you've paid for.
Come on, you can't get a double lead credit.
Like, we didn't know. I'm like, yeah, we're stuck in. Yeah. So just keep that in mind.
Understandable, of course. All right, that's good. So it's right on the statement. It's once a quarter. Do you know? I want to say the next one is maybe in July, like mid-July.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So always, I'll get the exact date, but I'm pretty sure it's always by the third, no later than the third week of the following quarter, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So July starts the new quarter. So no later than the third week of July, you'll see that lead rebate credit.
Awesome. All right. Not to confuse people, but I need to ask the question, what are some of the ways that leads are sent from Home Advisor to contractors?
Several different ways. And it's up to each individual pro how you want to set it up. You can get an email, a phone call, a text. If you have the mobile app, an alert will come through on your mobile app. If you have a call center, we can do it in through an API feed. I mean, there's several different ways. So I always tell people if you're one person shop, have every single method turned on that you can. If you have the app, download the app, get those emails, those text messages, those phone calls. The phone call is always an automated phone call. So they're literally just, reading you what the lead says. But you can like press 1 and have our automated system call out to the lead for you too. So that's why a lot of guys like that automated phone call. The text, it just comes through as a text. Email, again, everything's there. I would say, for the smaller companies, when you have your leads on, when you first start out, have every method turned on right away. And then you can decide what works best for your company. Like, is it too many emails? Is it too many text messages? Is it too many phone calls? But first automatically start off with every method turned on because you don't want to miss out on a lead.
Sure. And how, which lead source gets there fastest?
I want to say that they all come in simultaneously. I've heard from some pros, text messages come through first, others phone calls, others emails. But honestly, what I think it comes down to is just like area of service. Because if you're in an area where you don't really get good phone calls, but you'll get text messages and emails, it's always going to depend. I've also heard when I had Verizon, I got it faster through phone call, but when I had AT&T, I got it faster through text. So I think all of that kind of varies. And when we get the lead, we immediately send it out to all methods of communication, but we can't guarantee which is going to come fast.
No, it's all computer software.
Yep.
There's not someone going I'm not going to
exactly
those guys. Right. All right. And then just for clarity, because I think this is such a big deal, you mentioned it earlier. I would just ask you mention it again. How fast do you recommend that contractors call back these leads?
Within 5 minutes. And I mean, I think I was talking to you, a while ago or, earlier today. I actually use our service. I used it on Friday for a pro to come out and cut my trees. And guys, I can tell you, no one has called me yet, still. Wow. And these are things that I tell people all the time, call homeowners, call them right away. Because I work here, I'm still waiting. I'm not going to fill out another request. I'm not going to go on Google. I really am waiting for these guys to call me back. I've sent them text messages as well through the app. But if I was a regular homeowner, I would probably fill out another service request. I'd probably go on Google.
For sure.
And by the time they call me, they'll be upset. What do you mean you don't want me to choose you? So please call right away, because every homeowner is not going to be as understanding as I am. So call.
For sure. No, I believe it. It's just a race, leads are money and stuff. Hey, Ty, you've been super helpful, super resourceful, great content here. Any last tricks of the trade that you would recommend for contractors to do that they would have a better relationship with Home Advisor and they would increase their profits and just win more overall?
Absolutely. We've touched base on it several times, and of course, call, follow up, match, whatever method of communication will work, right? So multiple lines of communication. Another thing is profile page. Again, make sure that profile page is up to par. You're responding back to reviews. And in your network, if you know that, hey, I don't know, Bill, he is really good at Home Advisor. Every time we go to a show or we're on a call, he's talking about how successful he is. Ask him if he could be your mentor for a little bit. Ask, what are you doing different than what I'm doing? Pick up those tips of the trade, but also just anytime we're hosting a webinar, even if you're I know about following up on leads, or I know about this, still join. Because what I like to do is we like to look into the industry and into the market analysis and see how the homeowner's mind is shifting. How is it changing? How are they choosing pros? So I will always, at the end of each webinar, give a new key to success. Like, how can you be successful? How can we target this? And be willing to change. I can't tell you how many trade shows I've gone to, and those who have been in business forever, they're like, well, this has always worked for me. It worked for me for 15 years. And for some reason, within the past 6 months, it stopped working. I'm like, well, you kind of have to change a little bit. Like, let's try this. So always be flexible and open to change, knowing that what worked 6 months ago may not work today, and that's okay. And maybe what you do today is something you did a year ago, and you're just recycling it. It's now working. So be comfortable with changing. And the last thing I would say is, when we're talking to homeowners and we're saying, hey, what stood out to you about this pro? What made you refer the pro, as word of mouth to your neighbor? So more than 50% of our homeowners say how they treated me after they closed the job, after they were done. So find something, that will stand out to the homeowner. I've had contractors, if they had a little dog, they'll send like a week later an email just saying, hey, thank you so much for hiring me. We appreciated your business. I hope, we're going to call the dog PJ. I hope PJ, is doing good. Calling out something that you noticed when you were at that homeowner's home makes them feel like, okay, they weren't just here for a job and money. They appreciate me. They understand me, right? They picked part. So finding something that you can connect with that homeowner on is going to not just win you, a customer for life, but they are going to make sure that they tell their neighbors and, people who they hear talking about they need work done. They're now going to refer you. So now you're going to get leads in which you did not have to put money out to get, right? You're getting those word of mouth, those what we call, drop of apple leads. And that's what you want. So always close on a good note. I
love it. Great wisdom there. This has been a great talk, great information. Ty, thank you again for joining. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have a good one.
You too. Bye.
You've been listening to the Rainmaker for Contractors podcast, where basement waterproofing and foundation repair business owners and industry experts share marketing and sales information that helps you reach more customers. Please leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform, and get all of our show notes at rainmakerforcontractors.com/podcast.